Ben, thank you for joining us. And you have this very storied career in healthcare as an entrepreneur, but now you're focused on AI, as is the rest of the world. And I'm curious, what is it you want us to know about AI and how we're going to be using it going forward?
Well, I think the main thing that I try to get over to folks is AI is not the boogeyman you've been led to believe by the press. That's what they do. They have to do that. But it's actually the cavalry here to rescue us because we have a decline, among other things, we have a declining population. And that declining population is hitting us very fast, particularly in healthcare. If you've gone to make an appointment lately with a specialist, you probably noticed that it's several months out, and it's getting worse, and it's worldwide. And so we have to adapt to that, and AI is going to be how we adapt by increasing productivity with fewer people.
I want to talk about AI and healthcare with you. And then at the end of this, don't let me forget to ask you, because AI jobs are changing so rapidly that prompt engineers no longer have a future. That's another.
Right.
Let's talk about AI in healthcare. We have telemedicine, but now I imagine we're on the verge of the ability that I could somehow join into a discussion with an agent, a healthcare agent, that's an AI agent, describe my symptoms or my experience, and the AI agent listening to my words could then respond. Is that where we're at?
Yeah, we're way beyond even that. We have a model right now that is certainly one of the smartest doctors in the world, but does not describe, or we don't use her as a doctor, but as a medical educator. But essentially where you can interact with her and talk about anything, any condition you're having, and she will help you figure out what the issue is in order to communicate more clearly and effectively with your doctor. And that's a huge opportunity, because you think about today, Adam, how inefficient our interactions are with our physicians today, just physicians, much less nurses, dentists, anyone else. But particularly there, where they've got a very limited amount of time, we're trying to figure out how to get everything we can think about to ask them over in that very limited amount of time. And we miss, and they miss. And imagine if you had plenty of time to really interact with a medical educator so you really understood, and you could have that email to your doc in advance. It'd be wonderful.
So as you talk about this, and I have many follow-up questions, I'm thinking about a 60 Minutes episode about 2 years ago where they talked about AI. And for all the concerns people have about AI and hallucination, the strength of AI, they pointed out, was in healthcare analysis, that AI had improved cancer diagnosis, I believe the episode pointed out, dramatically.
Right.
So now who is using, for instance, you just described an agent. I would have interest in using that agent when someone in the family is ill.
Right.
It's a tool to bring to the doctor. Is that the ARC project, or is that a different?
No, we have that product, but we are advancing very fast to a much higher level product, as are many other people. I mean, Apple's announced they're going to have a doctor attached to the watch, and Aura's announced that they are having a doctor attached, but that's very limited data. And what you ultimately want, you want all your medical records. And that's where you start to really being able to do something significant in healthcare. You mentioned something, though. There's a few things that most people don't understand about AI that I think will help. You mentioned hallucinations. When we're talking about applications in education, healthcare, many applications in business where you need consistency and very high levels of accuracy, 99.59, more accurate than a human would be, then you're not really talking about the chat GPTs, the general purpose utilities of the world. They have a different function and they're fabulous for what they do. But for those you're using something called a bounded model. And a bounded model means you only load the data that you need for that particular application, because those other applications like ChatGPT go against the entire internet. That makes them more susceptible to error. So when you bound the model, you don't go against everything, but let's say it can still be gigantic amounts of data. So maybe it's all of the medical literature on cancer. Then it becomes a bounded model, if you follow it. That makes sense? And that's what
Absolutely
we're
makes
talking
sense.
about here. Yeah.
So I work in AI, and one of the
Oh, okay. So you know all this.
well, no, I don't know all of this. I experience it though. But one of the things that when we leverage a large language model at different places I've worked, because I've been in different AI jobs, I've always said that you have to guide when you're doing like a chat GPT, you have to consider the AI like, for lack of a better word, because it's more than a child, but like a child, if you tell a child to draw a flower, the child will draw a flower, sometimes on the wall, sometimes on the couch, seldom on the paper. With AI, you have to say, draw a flower only using the parameters and the data I give you, and I need you
There
to
you go.
output it here. That's how I
Yeah.
describe AI to friends.
That's actually very clever. Great way to do it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
As you've described it, though, because I've been part of projects where we did data chunking and indexing, what I hear you describing, and businesses have applications for this, is
Right.
you have a controlled data vector database
Right.
which the model can only draw upon that which it is supplied. It's not searching for other things, thereby
Right.
controlling accuracy.
Right. And it still can go against the internet, but it's under highly controlled circumstances where you scrub what goes out and you scrub what comes back. And you don't want to have to do it very much. It's better then to look and say, well, what am I going out for? And load that part into the bounded model, if you follow me.
I do follow you. So now the question I think people have is, okay, when am I going to get to have my first AI doctor or at least medic experience? Because some people will be reluctant. I'm comfortable with AI, but I'm also not your average bear. So,
Right.
when are people going to start doing this, and will they
Yeah,
accept it?
I think you're going to see those models, I think, in the market late this year, early next year. And there's some out there now, but they're still early stage. And I think you'll see production models for the general public probably next year, late this year, early next year.
Tell me about the ARC project. Now, are the models you're creating part of the ARC project, or is that a separate healthcare?
No, it's the company. It's the bounded. Those are bounded models, and so we build what we set out to do. And I actually launched the company several years before ChatGPT was ever announced, because I wanted to create something that I thought would probably be missing, or it would be take longer to develop, which is, first of all, accuracy, consistency, and also something that's very much more enjoyable to talk to. Because we're going to all of us be surrounded in our jobs and in our personal lives, working with avatars and bots. And I think we're going to get tired of them real quick if they're not a little more enjoyable to talk to. Still disclosing that they are an avatar. That's ethical AI. You should, and we always will disclose and require affirmation from the person we're working with. Yeah, I understand. I'm not talking to a person. But at the same time, then it still should be enjoyable. And it should be something that can say, hey, it's a good, you look good there today, or tell you a joke every now and then, or whatever it is. So I think that we set out to do that, and I think we've done a good job with it. That we're very proud of the fact that these are things that people tell us, boy, it's fun talking to them. So
Yeah, I have been avatared, and
yeah, so
I
yeah,
absolutely believe in the disclaimer,
yeah.
and that is part of the protocol that should be followed. But I am curious with your products,
Mhm.
will they be these agents that you've developed? When are they going to be made readily available to the public? And what kind of, I mean, how many testing units have you gone through? Have you had thousands of people go through as you test it?
Yeah, and where we will launch is we will launch in partnership with some physician practices, where these physicians are dealing with very complicated cases where they know if they could be with that person 24/7, 365, they could help them do better in their life. Maybe they have multiple chronic conditions. And so we want to focus on those kind of cases where the doctor can be with them 24/7, 365. And then as it's through its avatar, and then actually help coach them to live a better life. So
And
that's the idea. But there'll
it,
always be a doctor supervising, and I guess that's the point. Is
will,
way
will these agents be part of companies that are publicly traded, or will these be behind a private paywall?
Right now, we're looking at only a private group. We're not ready to go with tens of thousands of people till we get it really refined. So we want to see it, and all the patients will be volunteers, and they'll all know what they're doing and why. So,
But I've got to imagine, they're the legal issues with HIPAA, and that has to be addressed. But I got to imagine the insurance companies are going to want to have some kind of public-facing version of this in the
oh,
future.
absolutely.
One to control costs, but actually, I would hope they would want to have better outcomes.
Yeah, and they're going to have to. I mean, this is stuff is outcome driven. And the other great thing about AI is you can measure outcomes better than we've ever been able to do it before, ever. So because you can build basically a model, if you will, or of a person as a static being right now, and then measure where they are tomorrow, and measure where they are every hour, measure where they are next week, and show them progress in what they've done. That's huge. I had a prevention and wellness company, and that instant feedback is crucial, but it has to be intelligent. Instant feedback. And that's where the wearables have limitations, because they can only capture so much data. And there's far more data to tell you how we are, all of our testing data and so forth.
Do you think the average user will be comfortable submitting their entire health history to companies, or would it be the best?
They already are.
Well, I guess through insurance companies.
Yeah, they already are. They're out there. They're in the electronic medical records out there. Nobody. That's one of the things that's goofy about our healthcare system, is why are my records out there? Why aren't they? Why aren't they in my phone? Why aren't they where I can use them and I can analyze them? They are my records after all. And so I think that's one of the things that's likely to come out of this, is individuals are going to start to realize, and their doctors are going to encourage them, that the more we have all of your data in one place, and all your data means what's happened in the last 6 hours, the last 4 hours. The more we have that, the better we're going to be able to help you live your healthiest life.
So walk me through, in an ideal use case, what does the day look like for the patient and the physician utilizing the agent?
Well, I think the first of all is you have to really say what kind of a patient. If it's a patient who is a very healthy person, probably not, but not very obsessed with their health. They're just, they pretty healthy, live a pretty healthy lifestyle. Then they probably are only going to interact with it. They might have asked it to give me a plan to lose 5 pounds over the next 3 weeks. And it'll produce a plan for them, and they might be following that. But for the most part, they will use it only if they had a need, or if they were particularly working on a program. If I'm a person with chronic disease, I'm going to be all over this thing because I've got certain things I've got to do every day. And it's hard sometimes for me to do those things. I've got to make sure that I'm taking maybe 18 different pharmaceuticals and supplements. I got to remember those. Did I take it? And I want to try this new one, but I don't know whether I should or not. Well, I can ask my internal doc, and it'll say, no, you don't want to take that. No, you talk to your physician first.
What makes you most optimistic about this technology in the future?
I think, honestly, it's the fact that there's several things. First of all, I think, my books are about how do we adapt to this new world that is changing faster than ever in history, and it's not going to slow down, and it's getting more complex as it gets faster. So One is I think we'll be able to learn faster. We can, I know for sure. Because you can learn faster one-on-one than you can in a group. And we will we will know how to learn faster. We will gather knowledge faster. So, one of these will read a book for you and give you a summary, and very fast. And so I think we'll learn faster. Secondly, is I think we can become wiser. And that's part of what my book. So because we can have instantaneous decision support. How do I make this decision? Who's made a decision like this before? What can I learn from them? What kind of things do I do that I tend to cause me to make bad decisions? And so becoming learning faster and becoming wiser at the same time. And then finally becoming healthier. I think there is real opportunity here for us to have personalized 24/7, not just care, but health optimization. And I'm very excited about that. And I think it's going to happen. It's going to happen fast because it has to happen.
Is there anything that worries you about the technology or the adaptation of the technology?
Sure. It's like I don't think there's a thing we can do. Some of it we can do some things about and some we can't. But all technology is outrunning the bad guys. This is a democratizing technology because it's voice driven today. And so now people who could never access technology before can now access it and learn to use it pretty darn effectively. That's powerful on a positive side. There's a certain percentage of people in the world that just can't seem to get to imagine life without doing harm to others. And they get democratized too. And so we all see that every day in our email inbox because it's so full of scammers that you have to go through an inbox scrubbing process. So we have to figure out how to stay in front of the bad guys. But it's always been that way. I always tell the story of, I can imagine when fire was invented, and the first guys ladies start explaining it to the other people in the village. And people are going, wow, this is fantastic. We can cook our food. We don't have to eat it raw anymore. And we can defend ourselves from the animals and we can stay warm. And one guy in the corner says, yeah, we can burn the neighbors' villages down. And so there'll always be that. That's human. But I think we will outpace the bad guys, I think. And hopefully we'll learn some way to not have as many bad guys.
And as we start to consider this technology, I asked you at the beginning to not let me forget to ask you about this now. I have friends who started out as prompt engineers in AI, and it's a relatively new field. It's only 3 or 4 years old. And article today, prompt engineers are no longer needed. What I do is I go to different large language models and I input the desired outcomes I want, and then I refine as it gives me the prompts. I refine it and then I test it. Who needs a prompt engineer? So what happens to the people getting jobs now in AI as their jobs get replaced?
Yeah, well, and there certainly will be, some dislocation of entire careers. And I think as we look to the future, young people, and I know I share this with all the young people I speak to and who are in my orbit, be prepared to think about a life where you might have 12, 15 different careers, not jobs, careers. And that means you're going to have to learn and adapt very fast. It means you're going to have some reserve, because if there's a period there between jobs where you have to retrain, so you'll have to be more careful than the prior generation about having a good reserve to do those kind of things. At the end of the day, though, and it's a central thesis, of my book, is I think that we will elevate people beyond the jobs that computers can do to what they can't do. So what can't they do? They're not creative. They can never be creative. We don't even know what creation is. So we can simulate it, make it look like they came up with an idea, but they don't have an idea. They can't, because they don't have a soul, and there's no creative capability there. The second thing is that they can't really deal with complex human relationships. At the end of the day, human beings are incredibly complex. And I'm sure if you played with your avatar, at the end of the day, it doesn't really get this stuff. It's just doing what it's told to do. And it's a math machine. And so it'll be that and certain types of problem solving. In human beings, our great inventions come from intuitive leaps. A computer can't have any intuition. It doesn't exist. And so great things like crossing the oceans, were intuitive leaps that you weren't going to sail off the other side of the edge, and so those are the kind of jobs that I think we will gravitate to, and maybe we'll work fewer hours, but as well, and that wouldn't be a bad thing. But I think that's where jobs will go, and we will over time go through this transition of where repetitious jobs will be replaced.
I was thinking about the right now the discussions about people should tell their kids become plumbers and electricians. So I'm sure we'll be able to build a robot that can become an electrician. Let me ask you this as we start to wrap up there, and I'll get my history wrong. You probably would know it better than I do. The Luddites, that term we use, actually comes out, I think it was England in the 15 or 1600s, as they were moving from looms to more modern styles of creating fabrics.
Right.
So there was a pushback against the technology. In that kind of historical curve, where do you think we are right now with AI? When do the new Luddites appear?
Great question. Great question. Yeah, I've studied probably more than any human being should devote their time to the arc of history and what really happened. And one of the things that long before the Industrial Revolutions, you can see in periods of great change, there were always people who resisted it. They became fearful, and they became pessimistic. It must be all bad, and they fought it. They always ended up poorly. And I very first thing I say to people when I give speeches is fear is your enemy. Don't fear it, face it. Say, I'm going to adapt to it. I'm going to learn how to make it my tool, make it work for me. Because people who are optimistic, if you're pessimistic, you walk right by the opportunities. And the people who did well in these times of great change were people who saw it as a time of opportunity and used it. So I hope we should always be looking for things like ethical AI and demanding that we disclose. I mean, there's some common sense things we can do. That we do run through tests, just like, you would do an FDA test for anything that's healthcare related and that kind of thing, that we should do those things. But we don't want to stop because it's going to keep going no matter what. And what a lot of people forget is the bad guys will keep going. And if we don't, then we won't have a chance of staying in front of them. So we have to do that. And I hope what we'll see is we'll see angst, but when people start to see, when it starts to affect me, when I can suddenly get better health care, and I'm going to live a better life, when I can learn in a way I never thought possible, then hopefully we'll start seeing more advocates than resistors.